So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the World Cybersecurity Summit, Oman. And right now, for our final session, which is going to be our keynote on information security governance, the added value to the enterprises, we're looking at talking about how CISOs can add value to the business by focusing on strategic goals and directions and aligning their information security program to not only keep the businesses up and running, but also creating opportunities that would accelerate the journey. Also, we're going to be talking about strategies of how can CISOs better measure the added value, and the discussion could be much beyond this topic as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by Rasha Abdali, the in-charge Director of Compliance, Ministry of Transport, Communications, and Information Technology, Sultanate of Oman. Rasha is having over 13 plus years of experience in various IT domains. She's somebody who's served key national government projects related to IT governance, information security management, and IT compliance. She's currently leading the National IT Accreditation program as well as the government compliance program. And she's also very actively involved in conducting research work and has had a lot of papers published. So thank you so much, Rasha, for giving us your valuable time and joining us today at the World Cybersecurity Summit, Oman. With this, I'd now like to pass on the stage and screen to you. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll just share my screen so you have a glance on my presentation as well. Okay. Is it shared now or?
It is shared. We're just waiting to be in the presentation mode. Yes, perfect now. Over to you.
Sure. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rasha. I think I don't need to introduce myself further as you did. And I'm very pleased to be part of today's event. Well, I'm the last speaker, so that was more pressure on me to try making the session a little bit more entertaining. I try my best. I have only 15 minutes to make you leave this session with a little bit of enlightenment, I wish. And if you are a CISO, it may make you think about security with a fresh perspective. So we can start right away with a question I have in mind. That a very simple question I wanted to ask is that why do cars have brakes? I don't know if we can make it a little bit interactive, or I can see comments. I really don't know how I can view it on my screen. All right.
So, Rasha, the thing is, we won't be able to see the direct comments come in on
no
the
problem. No problem.
Personally DM you. So what I'd request you, Rasha, and to all our esteemed audiences, do let us know whatever you have to the questions which Rasha is asking by typing it in the Q&A tab. So if you type it in the Q&A tab, I'll have access and I'll pass it over to you. All right, Rasha?
Sure, no problem. I just have one question that I wanted to ask is like, why do cars have brakes? It's maybe a very basic question. And what do you think, for example, what do you think, why do cars have brakes?
To possibly give the option of resistance, wherein whenever you want to stop, you can stop. And that's like a sort of a protection to, a way of, that's my purview, I would say.
Well, actually, this is many people's view, to be honest with you. Many people think that the main reason cars do have brakes is to make them stop, whenever they want. But if that was the purpose, then why are we moving in the first place? I've done a couple of research work, and I've heard the same story. This is not a story or a case invented by me. It's one of the good examples to describe the area of security governance. Is that the essence of having brakes in the car is so that we can drive as fast as we can, or as well as we are allowed, of course. And brakes allow us to travel faster because we have the power to stop or slow down safely. So this is the essence why brakes are actually has been built into the cars. Of course, there are the other reasons that we can stop, but the essence of brakes is that we can drive faster and we can manage our speed. The same reason why security do exist as well is to keep the business up and running, and this is where I would like to introduce the concept of information security governance, and how can CISO demonstrate the business value and how can they really add value to businesses. So in order to succeed in their journey, the CISOs and security leaders have to have a good understanding of the business of their organization so they can identify where they can make value. CISOs need to focus on the strategic objectives of the business as well as the people, technology, and processes supporting the most important functions of the business. That is something very important. The technical side of security needs to be seen as part of the whole picture and not as a, just building technologies or providing, trying to just minimize problems, but you need to understand what problems are these and how these problems are also connected to the, business risks and how these security implementations are aligned in achieving the strategic goals of businesses. So, so there are strategies that, or I would like to share a few strategies that can be used by CISOs to prove security value. It's recommended to have to measure whatever you're doing. So measure against risk, quantify security roles in business success, and use metrics that matter. And I will talk about each one of these. For measuring against risk, security isn't there just for itself. It's all about understanding the risk appetite of the business and then building fences around it. CISOs who understand what's most important to the business can then build a security program aligned to the business needs with less likelihood of over-hardening security in less critical areas while under investing in the most critical ones. They need to build defenses and capabilities that are in line with these risks. Many organizations aren't yet that mature. According to a survey was conducted by EY Global in 2018 and 2019, it found that some like around 1,400 C-level leaders, including information security and IT executives, found that 55% of the organizations don't make the protection of the organization an integral part of their security or their of their strategy and execution plan. The survey also found that 92% of organizations have cybersecurity functions that don't fully meet their needs. However, experts say that CISOs who have an understanding of the business priorities, strategies, and risk tolerance can better articulate how particular security investments mesh with these or those business objectives and the risk thresholds. Those CISOs can then frame security value or security, they can frame security value proposition against how well it aligns with the organizational risk tolerance. When it comes to quantifying security roles in business success, CISOs can't end their work at marrying security investments to their organization's risk tolerance. They also need to take their understanding of the organization's strategic plan, plot where and how the security function enables business objectives, and then identify and quantify how security roles contributes to the overall success of those initiatives. The main value or the key value of security here is in how you facilitate those business outcomes, how you help take a business product from point A to point B. Consider, for example, how security works with the business and IT teams to enable the digital products that companies are now launching into the market. As most CISOs know that what it costs if something goes to go down, or the liabilities in terms of contract issues or in terms of regulatory fines, for example, those figures can help highlight security roles in enabling those digital products, just as the business and IT functions can share how their work delivered or deliver ROI. Using metrics that matter, that is something very important. Metrics are used in all areas of business to inform decision-making, to influence behavior, and evaluate performance. When developing metrics, it is important that they are linked to organizational objectives. For example, if one organizational objective is to increase shareholders' value, then metrics should inform managers about how decisions would affect value. Similarly, metrics that can help managers to evaluate how past decisions affected value would be applicable as well. So these are the high-level strategies that could be used by CISOs in order to, show, the top management in the organizations, or they can really link and affect effectively creating value and generating ROI, or meeting the business goals, and also as well managing the business risks in the organization, and they can show the value of the security projects and implementations. I will give a little bit of two examples related to the metrics from two companies. One of them is ADP. It's a human resources and payroll service company, and one of the most sophisticated cyber risk managers around, has two roles for risk register management in that organization. So their first focus is that every entry they have in their risk register must relate to an IT asset that must in turn relate to a product line. For instance, the risk might be loss of data center that knocks out servers that run applications, that run products that bring in revenue. So it's a little bit cascading and aligned along with the with the key business goals that is trying to achieve. Every entry must be defined as a loss event according to, and this is a second part of the risk register, that every entry must be defined as a loss event according to their FAIR model, like the factor analysis of information risk for cyber risk, quantification with a potential frequency and impact in dollar terms, as in lost revenue from the data outage. So they are actually linking their the records in the risk registers to the line of businesses and line of services that directly impact and affect their business. A risk register like ADP is clearly demonstrating the business value of cybersecurity, and quantification is the key. With an estimate in dollar terms of loss events, CISOs can also prioritize a top risk or top risks listed based on relative ranges of potential losses, then rank, for instance, the cost of that application going down versus the loss by data breach of the customer information tied to that application. So this is a good example of how you can quantify, how can you build a metric that really look like effective meeting or connected directly to the business lines of businesses of that organization and its services and its effects as well. Boeing group as well provides a good example of this. The unit is specifically tasked with protecting human, physical, and information assets from potential losses, with enabling the other business units within the organization to perform. Therefore, the metrics used by Boeing should provide information that will help managers to achieve these tasks. So the more you understand the business, the more you understand the services that drive or generate revenue or is connected to the business goal, whatever metrics you're building should be comprehensive enough and linked directly to that, so you can really quantify the effects that information security is bringing to the businesses. Walking the extra mile. So yes, we're here as security leaders or CISOs or professionals in this industry to enable businesses and keep the business up and running. Managing risk can help quantifying our value through risk. But is that all? Is that all what security can do to enterprises? I am here to share my perspective, to share some insights that I would also like you to think about. It's a story that is a little bit enlightening, at least to me, how security can play a big difference in businesses today. And here is a little story or a business case about security being a game changer in the banking industry, and I would like to talk about ATM machines and how ATM machines, actually made a revolution in the banking industries, and how security or the idea of having ATM in place affected the way banking sector is working. I'll speak a little bit of history and but to introduce you about that. The idea of ATM was by the 1960s, several teams around the world were working independently to devise a method for withdrawing cash from a bank after working hours without committing a crime. So this was the main idea, or what in the 60s or early 60s, the different teams around the world were working on. What happened actually, if we take it as a time frame and a quick time frame, here I would share with you, like in 1960, an American named Luther George invented the bankograph, a machine that allowed customers to deposit cash and checks into it. And the first ATM was set up in June in 1967 on one of the streets in London at a branch of Barclays Bank. I don't know if I have pronounced it really well. It's so a British inventor named John Shepherd Baron is credited with its invention. The machine allowed customers to withdraw a maximum of 10 British pound at a time. The first ATM in the US was installed in 1969 at a Chemical Bank branch in Rockville Center in New York, with the slogan, "On September 2nd, our banks will open at 9 a.m. and never close again." In 1970, a British engineer called James proposed the concept of a personal identification number, the PIN, which automated the verification of the identity of the customer, thus marking a landmark moment in the growth of self-service banking. The US witnessed a major surge in ATM numbers in 1977 when Citibank pledged more than 100 million for the installation of the machines around the city of New York. The ATM use rose by 20% when a blizzard forced all the banks in the city to close their branches for days. So US launched the NCR model in called 77 or 770, an easy to operate ATM that allowed the banks to offer service 24/7. I'm just going through the history so that you get a glance of how a security invention has led to all of that changes in the banking industry. If we continue a little bit, in 1980s, the newer model of the NCSR or NCR, which is called 5070 ATM, proved to be more reliable, flexible, and customer friendly. By 1984, the number of ATMs installed worldwide totaled 100,000 ATM, and as of 2018, there were more than 3 million of ATMs operational around the world, according to the consulting firm Retail Banking Research, that the figure is projected to cross 4 million by 2021. In the first decades of the 21st century, it saw a rise of number of ATMs frauds through sophisticated malware or technologies, such as skimming devices. So to stay a step ahead, banks developed software that could deduct anomalies in transactional data that hint towards illegal activities. So there is a huge transition in the banking industry happened because they decided we wanted to have a secure safe books, that would have money, so that we can let people withdraw money from that safe box. So this is the basic idea of ATM. So there are several effects. Maybe nobody thought things would turn out this way, but there were like several effects affected the way banking worked since then. In the UK, for instance, workers' unions were gaining power and influence during the period of the 60s and 70s. Banking unions were putting under precedent pressure on the banks to close on Saturdays. At the same time, automation was a buzzword that appealed to the masses and was thought to save time and labor costs. Automating the teller processes seemed to, very appealing to the stakeholders, satisfying the customers and the banking unions, and driving innovation in the banking industry. On the other side, in the US, banks were encountering resistance from their employees for their horrible working hours. As we all know, how is the US working system and the hours. The push for ATMs was motivated by the need to shorten banking hours, reduce congestion in bank branches, and cut labor costs. The prospect of attracting more customers with shiny new gadgetry appealed to the businessmen and opened doors up to sell them on loans and credit cards. So that shifted the way banking industry interacted with their customers. So the way that the the ATM machine or the device itself, or that little safe box, I would call it, has made a tremendous effects and on the banking industry, and presenting new opportunities on that. So the advent of the ATMs revolutionized the field of banking and changed the way banks interacted with their customers. People began identifying themselves with banks' brand rather than individual branches. And the ATM amplified the universal nature of banking, where banking wasn't tied to a branch or a human being, and it was available 24/7. And it could be accessed through machines and later through mobiles and laptops. So the little story of ATM is very inspiring, that security can then be more than just managing risks and help the organization to be protected only, but also it can introduce through it big opportunities whenever the organization can go further. Just like when we talked about the car, it's not just, yes, keep the business up and going, but it can also let it drive as fast as it can to achieve its strategic goals. So in order to conclude these little cases and examples, many security professionals will consider themselves to be subject matter expert within a specialized field that supports the business. However, it's time for security professionals to focus on identifying as business leaders with an expertise in the same way that legal, human resources, finance professionals within an organization would. To be effective, security leaders must take a strategic approach to their roles. Shifting to a strategic security approach isn't something that can happen overnight, and it is a constant process that requires the management of stakeholders' expectations and communications, training and awareness, and may also require process redesign, job redesign, as Fatik was saying. Like we really need to it's not just about having the technical side of security, but also to be keen enough to be open to understand the business and have a wide understanding of the business risks and how I can really serve this organization better. I think that is something from my viewpoint is very important for security leaders to think about and to adopt when trying to help businesses from their role and their perspective. I just wanted to share these few insights and points and little cases and stories that I really wish can bring a bigger perspective for security, not just from the technical side and what tools and technologies that we need to deal or handle with our processes, but also how can we understand the business and we can cooperate and align with it in order to really create value. So I think I am on time with my presentation. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rasha. Thank you for joining us today.